all the EV startups now, he kind of mentioned how, what can they really do that Tesla or the legacy OEMs at this point can't? And, the track record is not so hot for automobile companies. There's only two of the hundreds or thousands that haven't gone bankrupt, being, Tesla and Ford. So the picture is a little grim for these startups. And he was saying how, like, to make matters worse, they're kind of jumping into the deep end and they're skipping, like Tesla went through getting everything wrong and making all the mistakes on a small scale. They're jumping right in already to mass scale. And the margin for error there is just going to be so much smaller. So I feel like you're going to see them, they're going to fold more easily because they kind of like rushed into that mass market. But I mean, it could work out for them too, because if you start slow here, I guess you're never going to get any meaningful market. So like you kind of have to.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. And think about, even companies like Apple, when Apple puts out, a new iPhone, but all of a sudden they find that they have got a massive bug that's in it, that's huge. And that's a company who obviously has been around for a while. They know what they're doing, but they still, on mass scale products, have an issue that comes out. And they've gone and they've learned from all their mistakes. I mean, heck, the antenna thing that ended up getting, what's his name, fired over there, Tim. And, you know, it happens. So thinking about, like you said, these startups who haven't gone through this, they haven't learned anything. It's a flip of a coin. It's definitely a gamble, because if they do get through it successfully, they can be good. But one hiccup and they're toast. Obviously, a lot of the Chinese automotive makers who have been doing this for a few years now are on a good pace for it, which is why Elon mentioned that them and VW are on the best pace right now where they're going.
Right. And they have the government backing too.
Yeah, but looking at Tesla has stuck with, they've got their four models, and yes, they're going to come out with some new ones, but people are like, well, they don't have enough models, and I'm like, but they have learned and perfected the models that they're on. You start looking at these legacy automotive makers who want to do 13 to 50 different models, like that's a lot of mistakes that can happen along the way.
Yeah,
Just
it's
looking at Tesla themselves, Elon's like, the best part is no part, so fewer models is better for efficiency.
right. And that's the other thing. I mean, yeah, when it comes to volume production, it's a lot easier to sell more of only five models. There's a great chance that Tesla gets to the point where, let's say, they can sell 10 million models, because or vehicles, I mean, because they only have five different models. And yeah, there's a lot of, similarity. It makes it better cost of scale and everything. But if you're making 30 different cars, I mean, there's no way it doesn't slow you down. So maybe that means, like, if GM wants to do 30 cars, they're only going to be able to crank out 5-6 million, or at a maximum. I would think that they're capped where they are today. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. The most market share they can ever get back to, let's say, would be historically the ICE market share they had. So let's say that's about 8 million vehicles sold a year. But then again, chances are Tesla didn't exist back then. So now, like, they're only going to take market share and compress everyone else's market share. So everyone else stands to lose X amount. We don't know yet, but it's definitely going to be significant. And Tesla is just the one who, the quickly that they can get this done, has the most to gain here, because they're just going to grab as much of the market share as they can. And that's what Elon has said on the calls. That's another reason why they have only a few models, because it's about, getting mass market share.
Oh yeah, and think about it this way: you're going to go bake yourself 1,000 cookies. Is it going to be more cost effective and efficient for you to bake 1,000 chocolate chip cookies, or 200 of 5 different types of cookies? I mean, straight math. You're going to have to spend more money on different ingredients for all of these different cookies, and you're going to have to use more pans to cook them all. You're going to have to use more, time and effort to kind of split it all up, and it's definitely going to take you significantly longer to make those 1,000 cookies 5 different varieties.
And then when you throw in that we already know GM has to sell 5 times as many cookies to make the same amount of cash as
So they've got to
Tesla,
make 5,000 cookies versus 1,000.
it does not paint a very promising picture. There's
Yeah.
and the other thing too is, while the OEMs, I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. You can make the argument that they are electric car startups as well, because they have
Yeah.
never done this. I mean, they have somewhat more experience, but who knows? It could be a completely different ballgame. I mean, we know there's way less moving parts. And there's probably a great chance that Tesla, I mean, I think it is the only way this plays out is that Tesla like already has mastered how to produce these electric vehicles. It's going to take them time, even though that they've been manufacturing ICE cars. I think it's going to take a very long time for them to get as efficient at it as Tesla too,
Oh yeah, and I mean, and we've talked about it
if ever.
before. We've talked about it before with Tesla. From breaking ground to full ramp is about 3 years. With Shanghai, it took them 3 years. So, and they do it 3 times faster than anybody else. So there's no way that even, and not only that, but even if, let's say, Legacy is able to do it that quickly, they haven't even broken ground yet. Tesla already has 4 factories up and running, already breaking ground on expansions for 3 of those factories. And who knows what they've got going on elsewhere that they haven't announced yet, and we can get on to Indonesia from
Yeah.
there. But I'm like, they already have all of these things going where nobody has even started yet. So even if they could go at the pace of Tesla, they're still 3 years behind.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, it is crazy to think about the traditional, time it takes to get these cars to market for the legacy OEMs. Yeah, like you said, Tesla, let's say it's 3 years, them it would probably be 9 because there's so many things like they have to establish the funding. They have to convince the company why we should spend X amount of billions of dollars because it's going to get us this return. Maybe that takes a year. Then it takes a few years for the design team because they have to, send this out to someone because they're not doing everything in house. Tesla has, done it all in house and become vertically integrated, the traditional way. So they're using, they have to figure out their own funding. Then they have to outsource it to a, design team that's, a third party. Then they have to get the engineers to make it a reality. And by the time all this plays out, yeah, it's like almost a decade, maybe more has gone by. So they just cannot possibly move quickly unless they're able to vertically integrate and do everything like how Tesla has, but I don't think the UAW is having any of that.
Oh yeah, and even if they learn from a lot of what Tesla did, Tesla's got patents on the open out there, and you can do whatever you want and learn from Tesla. They don't have any secrets. They're pretty transparent about most of their stuff. But it's like even if they learn from that, they still have to learn it and do it the same way, or try to figure out how to do it on their own and their own way. And so it's still going to take them a while to get to that point.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty interesting. I was thinking about that today because Elon was talking about that in the interview with the patents, how they've open sourced everything, and yeah, like because this is just a company, like just there it is again that they're committed to what's best for the greater good. I wonder if it has negatively impacted them, and it will help others catch up quicker. But that's what they want, and I think there's a good chance this is like the new way of doing things that by creating the greatest good, you actually do become the most prosperous company. It's not like, let's say 50 years ago when it was just about like hoarding and greed and, like people buy into that transparency and it kind of can give, I think both investors and the people that want to work there, it can end up being an advantage for them, I think too, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, think about Apple. You think about Apple when they came out with the iPhone. If they had open sourced their technology for the touchscreen without having some teenage kid, figure it out and sell it off to Samsung for VW Jetta, it would have been, it would have been basically the same thing. But if Apple just open sourced it to everybody, the technology would have been here sooner than it was. And I mean, I think either way it would get out there, but I think it shows a lot of who Tesla and Elon are by open sourcing and saying, look, this is the best for humanity. This is the great ideas that we've had. Go ahead and use them and let's all go in that same direction. I think it speaks volumes for what they stand
Doing,
for.
yep, because Tesla's all about doing the reality of good over the perception of good.
Yes.
That's something Elon's been harping on too. And yeah, I think Apple might be one of those companies too that's at least historically done like the perception of good over reality. And again, this just kind of goes back to my point of like it could be a disadvantage because yeah, like it'll help people catch up quicker and compete with them, or it could actually be another strength for them. I think that'll be really interesting to see like how that plays out.
Oh yeah, I mean, thinking about, we've talked about it before too, is the more companies who jump onto EV adoption, the larger and faster EV adoption is going to grow, and the more Tesla is going to benefit from it.
That's
So
true
Tesla
too.
can,
Yeah.
so if Tesla can open source all of its technology so people can get on board faster, it just means Tesla is going to succeed faster.